We hear plenty about the affordable housing crisis, and if there are many more people in need of affordable housing than there are affordable units, then we can understand why there is a crisis. Yet, assuming we cannot address why so many Americans are of the lower income status, we need to examine the issue from a different angle. Because if most Americans were well paid or for whatever other reasons did not find themselves among the lower earners, then plainly there would be no crisis. The average wage earner would be able to afford the cost of the average home or apartment. Unfortunately, the average American does not earn enough to be able to afford that market-based rental. Let's focus on Bethlehem. According to Zumper, a company that tracks rental market trends between 2022 and today, the average cost of a two-bedroom apartment in the city has increased by 9% in the past year and is currently at $1,800 per month compared to $1,600 per month in 2022. I'm betting that most folks did not see their income increase by 9% during this period. Meanwhile, Census.gov tells us that although most Bethlehem residents are enjoying a level of prosperity that has them above water, 18.3% of city residents are living at the poverty level. A surprising statistic is that according to censusreporter.org, half of Bethlehem's residents rent their homes. Since we know, according to the federal government, that you are considered a poor individual with an annual income of about $15,000 and a poor family with a household income of $30,000, family of four, we can get closer to seeing if or why there's a crisis. Assuming that as the government has declared that low-income housing is based upon poor people paying more than 30% of their gross income for housing, that means that the low-income individual is facing this. Monthly income, $1,250. So 30% would be $375. So a single person at the poverty level simply cannot afford an average rent in Bethlehem. The national numbers are equally grim. On average, median rent is $1,900 per month. We have passed the point several years ago when the average person could afford the average rent in America. So we have proven that there is clearly a demand for affordable housing, but what about supply? Since practically everything follows the supply-demand philosophy, why don't builders provide affordable housing? In Bethlehem, there are surely no shortages of new apartment buildings being built. There are either brand new mid-rise buildings or adaptive reuses of churches, commercial buildings, factories, breweries. The list goes on and on. This supply follows a demand for housing, but what kind and for who? As far as we know, very few, if any, of these projects are intended for low-income citizens. All of the units that I am aware of are offering market rate rents, or in other words, rents closer to $2,000 than to $400. Why is this the case? Profit, that's why. Builders need to have a solid incentive to build apartments. The surest incentive is that they will make a profit and that they will not take a loss. There are no guarantees in this world. But one thing that is certain is that marketing apartments to persons of higher income is less chancy than constructing buildings that attract poor people who are at much higher risk for defaulting on their monthly obligations. And of course, the difference between an owner collecting $2,000 and collecting $400 is considerable. In America, only one entity has tackled the thorny issue of providing affordable housing, and that's the federal government. The program known as public housing has been around since around 1940, and although it has changed a bit over 8 decades, it is still the only program that works. And the reason it hobbles along is because the government offers units that are based upon the tenant's ability to pay, with the threshold set to 30%. People qualifying for the program pay no more than 30% of their gross monthly income toward rent. So 30% of a low-income number equals a low monthly rent. But beginning in the early 1970s, even the federal government started to get cold feet. A moratorium on building new public housing went into effect. In the next 50 years, the federal commitment continued to decline. Housing authorities count on an annual subsidy from Uncle Sam in order to balance their books. By offering units for 70% off market rates, it is clearly impossible to keep a business going, much less profitable. With less commitment by the government to cover the built-in monthly shortfall, even this program is in danger. And that is why private developers don't touch affordable housing. It is a risky endeavor and one with no clear path to profitability.